Let's dwell on our main story again now, the negotiations in Dublin, which look like they're going to result in a colossal rescue plan for the Irish economy from the IMF and the European Central Bank. I'm joined now from Dublin by Dick Roche, Ireland's Minister for European Affairs. Minister, your Prime Minister said today this is nothing to be ashamed. You do not need to feel ashamed. Don't you feel shame as to what's happened?
Well, first and foremost, I think a better analysis of precisely what's happened and the changing narrative over the last few weeks is contained in the London Independent today, where David Prosser makes the point that over the last 2.5 years, Ireland has done absolutely everything that was required of us by Europe. We made cuts of 15 billion, and in terms of our financial adjustments, that's huge. We have committed ourselves to a 6 billion front load in our budget for 2011, and by the end of 2011, we will be 2/3 of the way towards meeting the 3% target by 2014. And we've committed to producing a 4-year plan. As late as this week, the European finance ministers made the point that Ireland had actually achieved all of these things, and it welcomed those achievements. It also made the point that insofar as the banks, which had been a big issue, were concerned, that they endorsed the guarantee, they endorsed the recapitalisation, and they endorsed the establishment of NAMA. So we have done absolutely everything that was prudent, that was proper, and that was requested of us.
But behind all this, Minister, there is the very unpleasant reality that the poor old European Central Bank has had to lend 150-odd billion euro to your banks, and they quite understandably said enough is enough. We want a long-term plan now for dealing with this.
Well, we've actually already started to work on a long-term plan. We're the first into the field to actually say that. We had Ollie Rehn, the Commissioner, over here only 7 days ago, and we went through the issues there, and he welcomed what we were doing. And in fact, again, if you look at the communiqué that came out of the finance ministers this week, the finance ministers indicated that in spite of all that had been done here in Ireland, the sentiment has been very hard, and that's a fact. The market sentiment has been very hard.
But Minister, it's pretty understandable as to why it's hard, and surely when you come down to the reality, the harsh reality is that behind you tonight there are officials from the IMF, from the European Union, and they are bailing Ireland out. Whatever you say you've done, it hasn't proved enough.
Well, again, I refer you back to the communiqué, and I know this can be tedious when you actually refer to facts, but the reality of it is the communiqué made it very clear that in spite of all that had been done, the markets did react in the way they have. But again, you go back and you look at the analysis, whether it's today's Financial Times,
Minister,
the German edition...
Let's just talk about the present, though. There's no point constantly going back. The fact is, tonight, Ireland is being bailed out by the IMF and the EU. That is a shameful failure.
Well, the fact is tonight that there are discussions. The IMF has actually just made it clear that there has been no request from Ireland for a bailout. And that remains the fact. The IMF has also suggested tonight that the capacity to resolve these issues lies within Europe.
Minister, you're suffering from the same condition of denial as your Prime Minister. I mean, these guys don't turn up. These guys don't turn up.
With all due respect, that is a pejorative way of dealing with precisely what I've been saying. We have taken the hard decisions. We have taken the hard decisions which have been required of us. We have been willing to do that.
Are you telling me that the IMF officials and the EU officials can leave right now? There is no work to be done?
No. No, I'm not saying that. Of course I'm not saying that. In fact, what was agreed earlier this week is that there needs to be an analysis to find out what further needs to be done, and we're actually committed to that. We're committed to that, and we've said from day one we're prepared to work with our EU colleagues, because we realise that this is not just an Irish problem, this is a Eurozone problem. It has to be addressed, and we're prepared to address it.
But a telephone call would have done that. You could have explained that on the phone. Why do they need to pitch up in person? You know why they need to turn up in person. Because a job has to be done, and that job is to bail you out.
No, the first thing that has to be done is the analysis has to be completed. And then, as our own central bank governor made today, there are several different paths that could be followed and that will be followed. I just make the point.
When are we going to hear a Fianna Fáil minister? When are we going to hear a Fianna Fáil minister or official simply accept the reality that the Irish economy is going to be bailed out?
But sure, can I just make a point to you? that if by any objective analysis that's not where we are in Ireland at the moment, we already have resources left aside in our National Treasury Management Agency and in the pension fund. There is a problem. I'm not denying there's a problem, but it is not a sovereign debt problem as was the analysis earlier on. There is a problem as to how the markets have responded to the steps that have been taken in our banks. That has to be dealt with, and we're prepared to deal with that. And we're prepared to deal with it in whatever way that is necessary, because we have not been short, we've not fallen short in dealing with the issues that have been put to us up to this. But it's not a question of being in denial to say we want to see what are the issues, what is this programme, what are the details. No government behaving logically would say we'll sign up before we see the details.
Minister,
that's only a rational way of behaving.
Thank you very much indeed for coming in and talking to us.
You're very welcome.